This week on Jerusalem Dateline, Iran and Saudi Arabia square off against each other after Saudi Arabia executes a top Shiite cleric. Could this lead to a wider Mideast war? Plus, President Obama wants to take in more Syrian refugees, but he's meeting serious opposition. And a life-saving surgery for a little Syrian girl. Is this the true Middle East peace plan? Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Tensions are escalating in the Middle East. It comes after Saudi Arabia executed a prominent cleric, inflaming Shiite Muslims around the world. Now the Saudis and Iran have cut diplomatic ties as the divide between the two Islamic powers grows deeper. As Gary Lane reports, some wonder if it could lead to a war between the two rivals.
Shia Muslims around the world staged protests. This one turned violent in Kashmir, India. Others, like this one in Beirut, Lebanon, were more sedate. But the message was clear. Saudi Arabia's execution of prominent Shiite Muslim cleric Nimr al-Nimr was a crime against humanity. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah condemned the execution, saying the Saudi monarchy is a terrorist dictatorship. But the biggest protest occurred in Tehran, Iran, where demonstrators stormed and set fire to the Saudi embassy.
Allah has promised to get revenge over spilled blood of the innocent. When time passes, the House of Saud will certainly understand that al-Nimr's blood will catch up with those who executed him.
Others set fire to an American flag and said they believe the House of Saud will be overthrown by ISIS or Islamic countries. Iranian President Rouhani denounced the execution, calling it anti-Islamic and anti-human. An Iranian government judicial spokesman said some of those who stormed the Saudi embassy have been arrested and jailed. Saudi Arabia announced the execution of Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr on Saturday. He was killed along with 46 others, including Saudi dissidents and members of al-Qaeda. The Iranians say the Saudis executed the sheikh because he was an outspoken critic of the monarchy and called for human rights for Saudi Arabia's Shiite minority. So what might this mean for the United States and the rest of the world? For now, it may mean peace efforts to end the Saudi and Iranian proxy wars in Yemen and Syria may likely stall.
The Iranians will probably go beyond rhetoric, intensifying their support to Houthi rebels in Yemen and perhaps even trying to foment protests and insurgencies, perhaps even in Bahrain, among the Shia majority there, against the Sunni king, and in Saudi Arabia in the Al-Hassa province.
As Muslim clerics attended Nimr al-Nimr's funeral this past weekend, the White House released a statement condemning his execution. President Obama chose not to comment on escalating Middle East tensions as he and his family returned to Washington from their Hawaii vacation. Gary Lane, CBN News.
After the Saudis cut diplomatic ties with Iran, we talked with two Israeli experts about what this means for the future of the region. We'll also take a look at why the Sunnis and Shiites have been in conflict for centuries. The conflict between Sunni Saudi Arabia and Shiite Iran pits the two major sects of Islam against each other. The blood feud between Sunnis and Shiites began more than 1,300 years ago. When their prophet Muhammad died, a great debate arose among the Islamic community about who should be the successor of Muhammad. The Sunnis believed he should come from the Islamic community, while Shiites believed he should come from one of the descendants of Muhammad. Both claimed to be the rightful heirs of Islam. When the Sunnis killed Ali, the son-in-law of Muhammad, the feud began and simmers to this day. With the furor over the execution of Sheikh Nimr, it's boiling.
Boiling in the sense that Iran is becoming more and more a threat on the majority of Islam, the Sunni Islam.
Eliezer Safrir served as the Mossad station chief in Tehran during the 1979 Iranian Revolution. He says the context of the current crisis involves the recent nuclear deal with Iran. When the U.S. signed the deal, Saudi Arabia felt betrayed.
Not only Saudi Arabia, all the Arab Sunni states, they feel that they were betrayed by America. Everybody knows for sure that the Iranians are pushing decisively to reach nuclear power. There is no doubt about it.
Safrir says the Saudis are terrified of a nuclear Iran.
In my opinion, they are praying at nights to God that America and or Israel will do the job for them to hit the nuclear projects in Iran.
He says the execution of the Shiite cleric sent a warning to Iran.
A kind of deterrence, be careful, you are going too far.
Executing this guy is meaning like a declaration of war against Iran.
Middle East expert Michael Barak doesn't expect a direct war between the two Middle East giants, but does expect their proxy wars around the region to intensify.
Actually, we are already witness to the clash between Shia and Sunnis in Yemen, in Iraq, and Syria. It will get worse.
Safrir believes the real danger in the region is Iran.
In my opinion, the head of the serpent lies in Tehran. This is the major threat on peace, on the world, on the Middle East, on the Iranian people.
ISIS is employing scientists and weapons experts to train jihadis to carry out sophisticated and spectacular attacks in Europe. That's according to Sky News. The scientists are working in the city of Raqqa in Syria. There, in a type of jihadi technical college, scientists are working on modifying weapon systems for surface-to-air missiles capable of targeting passenger jets and military aircraft. They've also produced fully working remote-controlled cars to act as mobile bombs, and a homemade thermal battery for surface-to-air missiles, something considered to be a nearly impossible feat without military support. Western weapons experts describe the information and footage obtained by Sky News as an intelligence goldmine. Well, President Obama wants to allow more Syrian refugees into the United States, but that move has met serious opposition because of the concerns that America could be importing terrorism. Here's Dale Hurd with this look at the debate over Islam and immigration.
As Europe's winter closes in on Syrian refugees, many find themselves out in the cold.
The weather is cold. Please help.
As America prepares to accept some of them, many are asking which of them are true refugees. What is America's role, if any, in helping them? And how many of them are ISIS?
I take ISIS at its word when it says we want to exploit the refugee program to infiltrate the West.
President Obama says Syrian refugees are less dangerous than tourists, and he wants to bring in at least 10,000 in 2016. But warning signs abound. The Germans say almost 1 out of 3 migrants are lying about being Syrian. The Czech president has warned that Europe is facing an organized invasion and not the spontaneous movement of refugees. One young refugee told this Swiss newspaper he met many radical Muslims on his way to Europe. And FBI Director James Comey has warned Congress that Syrian refugees cannot be properly vetted.
It's not just those who come in here who specifically intend to be part of plots to kill Americans. It's also those who may be most easily recruitable in the years to come.
Clifford May, president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, says it would only take a few terrorists to get through.
There were only a handful of people involved in the 9/11 attacks. Just a handful. Is that okay? Are we willing to have a 9/11 attack every 1 year, every 3 years, every 5 years?
Presidential candidate Donald Trump has called for a temporary ban on all Muslim immigration. But when you actually crunch the numbers, those who have gone through the actual refugee vetting process have so far committed no acts of terrorism on American soil.
There have been no refugees admitted since 9/11 who have committed a terrorist attack in the United States.
Immigration policy analyst Alex Nelrasta says Syrian refugees in America would not come through Europe, but from camps in the Middle East. And very few would-be terrorists could make it through the refugee process.
The first level of checks to the refugee system is done by the UN, where they reject 99% of applicants. There are an additional 21 different steps undertaken by the U.S. government that a refugee must go through in order to come to the United States. For a Syrian, that takes about 3 years to go through to come here. So it's a very safe system. It is the hardest way to come to the United States.
There are easier ways for a terrorist to enter the U.S., like green card fraud or a student visa, or simply walking across the border. But what this debate seems to really be about is the religion of the refugees, Islam, and if Islam makes them a potential danger. President Obama, who continues to have trouble saying the words Muslim terrorism, seems to view Islam as the same as other religions. But many former Muslims disagree.
Is it? Is it the same as other religions?
No, it's not. Islam is different than other religions because Islam does not accept any law besides Allah's law.
We asked Brother Rashid, a former Muslim who now hosts a popular Arabic TV program called Daring Questions, if some Muslim migrants are coming to the West not as guests, but as conquerors.
Of course. I have family members in Europe and they think the same thing. I visited them and they think that Europe, they hate Europe, they hate the West, they hate their way of life, so they are there to change them.
Brother Rashid says he does not believe, as some do, that every Muslim is a potential terrorist, because he says many Muslims are not serious about their faith. But he warns that all a Muslim needs to do, like the San Bernardino bomber, is suddenly decide to follow the Quran completely. He says that is precisely what ISIS has tried to do.
These guys are devout Muslims. They are not just bunch of terrorists who did not understand Islam. All these guys understood Islam, studied it. Al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, is a PhD holder in Islamic studies, so he must understand Islam to get a PhD.
There are more concerns about Muslim refugees. Polls show most Muslim countries are overwhelmingly anti-Semitic. One survey found that almost 80% of Syrians support the Palestinian terror group Hamas. Polls show most Americans overwhelmingly oppose accepting Syrian refugees, and over 30 states have refused to accept them. America is not only a land of immigrants, it is the most charitable nation on earth. But when it comes to allowing in some Muslim refugees, Americans may be forced to choose between charity and safety. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Coming up, a unique Middle East peace plan. Jews and Christians come together to save the life of a Muslim child. Mistrust and hatred often separate the people of the Middle East. But a program in Israel is not only breaking down walls, but saving lives in the process. Here's a touching story about how Jews and Christians came together to save the life of a young Muslim girl.
Meet Niaz. She's nearly 2 years old. She looks healthy, but without life-saving heart surgery, she wouldn't live for long. That diagnosis came from doctors who saw Niaz in the Syrian refugee camp, where war forced her to live. The decision to take her little girl to Israel was not an easy one for her mother. Due to fear of possible repercussion, we hid her identity.
First, I was afraid of the thought of coming here. But after some thought and discussion with my husband, we decided it was worth it for the surgery.
It was a perilous journey. Niaz and her mother fled the Syrian war zone to northern Iraq, then made their way through Jordan and into Israel for treatment. This opportunity is a result of the work of Shevet Hakim, which finds and helps at-risk kids throughout the Middle East. The Christian outreach group serves as a bridge between the Muslim world and the Jewish state.
You know, we're grateful for the opportunity that the Lord has given us to partner, to be that middle, to be those people who can go places that the Jewish doctors can't go, people who can go places that the Muslim families can't go. We have been granted the opportunity to go to all the corners of the world and to bring a message of peace and of love.
They work together with partners such as Save a Child's Heart and hospitals like the Wolfson Center in Tel Aviv. They provide life-saving surgery for children, often from places that consider Israel the enemy. Dr. Lior Sasson co-founded the program 20 years ago.
Maybe people will call me naive, but I think dealing with the Palestinians and patients coming from enemies countries, and they know what we did for their child, and it put everything in new perspective. It seems that we are not the monster that everybody wants to draw us. I think it's like trust-building steps.
When Niaz arrived, doctors gave her a grim prognosis.
She already had damage to the lungs. This makes the surgery even more difficult because it makes it with higher complication rates.
As Niaz's mother prepared her little girl for surgery, doctors scrubbed up for an operation they knew would be challenging.
Niaz has a rare heart defect. She has a hole between her two major arteries. Right now, doctors are trying to close that hole, but it's complicated because the surgery ideally should have been done more than a year ago.
The surgery took several hours, required a team of surgeons, nurses, and technicians with state-of-the-art equipment. Shevet Hakeem volunteers stayed with Niaz's mother as she waited and hoped for a miracle.
It seems successful. There was a big hole between the two arteries coming out from the aorta and the pulmonary artery.
Following the surgery, a team worked on Niaz for days until they could analyze the full extent of the procedure.
So what we see right now, what we saw in the echo following surgery, is although she came late, the results were amazing.
Care provided throughout the ordeal made a huge impact on Niaz's mother. For many, it's like a Middle East peace plan.
We experience fear, hesitation, distrust even of the Israeli doctors, sometimes of us. And what is really a blessing is seeing that distrust turn to love, seeing the fear turn to confidence, and seeing these kids' lives saved, and also seeing their parents and their families, their viewpoints radically changed for the good.
Knowing that nobody else would do it, and the patient will die if we will not be doing the surgeries, and to see the patients recovering, it's beyond any description.
Niaz survived her surgery and headed back to Syria with a new heart.
I'm very happy. I'm very glad. I thank all the Jewish doctors that treated our daughter, and I got good treatment from all the staff here, and also Shevet Hakeem, who brought us here to the hospital.
She goes home with a scar that will serve as a reminder of a much brighter future.
She will have a normal life. She can do sports. If her genetics is, then she can go to the Olympics. She can get married and have children. She can go to university first. She can become a doctor, whatever. Her prognosis right now is that of a normal child.
What would have happened if she didn't have the surgery?
She would have died. She would have died in infancy, not in adolescence or an adult. She would have died in infancy.
Coming up, it's called Operation Exodus, where Christians are helping Jews return to their homeland. A growing number of Jews are returning to Israel, and as we've reported before, it's part of a fulfillment of prophecy spoken of in the Bible. Charlene Aron recently spoke with the head of one organization on the front lines, helping the Jewish people make their way home.
Earlier this year, immigrants from North America landed at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion International Airport to make Israel their home. Seeing Jewish people return to Israel is literally watching Bible prophecy unfold. Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel all speak of the Jewish return to the land.
It says several times in Isaiah, I will lift up a banner to the nations, to the Gentiles. They shall bring your sons and your daughters back.
Deborah Menotti heads Operation Exodus, an organization that helps Jews return to their biblical homeland. She says since 2014, there's been a 79% increase of inquiries about assistance to return to Israel.
If I can just give glory to God because this is His work. In 1948, Israel had 800,000 Jewish people in the land when they became a nation in one day, like Isaiah said. Now there's over 6 million. So that is incredible, over 67 years. And so they're going back by the plane loads yearly.
Operation Exodus partners with the Jewish Agency for Israel and other groups to help Jews move to Israel. The organization also provides humanitarian aid to Holocaust survivors and others in the former Soviet Union. A big part in helping those seeking to return is the power of prayer.
We pray for their safety. We also pray that they would get jobs quickly. And those things that are holding them back here, the frustrations, there's family issues that are going on, children who are sick.
Minati says there are many reasons Jews are returning to their homeland.
Many of them are saying, Hashem is calling us back to the land. Others are saying, I want my children to be raised in a Jewish homeland. Other ones are saying, I want to defend Israel. I want to be there. I'm a Zionist. They say this is 1939, some of them. They say that we see the handwriting on that wall.
Motivated by love for Israel and for the Jewish people, Operation Exodus offers Minati and others the opportunity to work with God to bring his prophecies to pass.
You wake up and you think, what an awesome responsibility and what an awesome joy it is at the same time. It is deep joy. And there's a cost to standing with Israel. So it's intense, but I love it. I love it. And our workers love it. Our volunteers love it. It's only going to grow.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Up next, how one Israeli city is blending ancient history with modern living. A 3,400-year-old Canaanite citadel is set to become part of a brand new high-rise apartment complex with underground parking in northern Israel. Archaeologists with the Israel Antiquities Authority uncovered the ancient citadel in the seaside city of Nahariya recently. And according to the archaeologists, this citadel was likely an administrative center that served mariners who sailed the Mediterranean coast more than 3,000 years ago. The fortress was destroyed at least 4 times and then rebuilt. Many building projects in Israel start with archaeological digs known as salvage excavations. Most of the time they're recovered or moved, but this one will have a different outcome. Because of the nature and quality of the find, the IAA wanted to preserve it. It was decided that part of the citadel would be preserved and put on display in the basement of the building for both residents and visitors. It's one more sign Israel is a unique blend of the ancient and modern. Well, that's all for this edition. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.